I've been running my own business since I was 16. Basically, I've been doing it right from the very early days. And if I look back on it, then I think definitely part of my kind of entrepreneurial drive was something like the I can do it myself attitude, which was certainly related as well to a rebellion against my father, my biological father, which turned into a rebellion against my heavenly father, and kind of made me also reject the wisdom of that which had been before, and made me think, no, I can figure it out. I know the best answers. I'm going to do it all my way, kind of thing. And as I've grown older and luckily wiser, I've seen the folly of that. And I've seen how that's been very dysfunctional in my life. And even when I've experienced apparent success, it's been at a far higher price than what I've been even willing to put myself and what's been good for me. Josh Fonger, good to have you on again. Good to see you.
Glad to be here, Paul.
Great. Yeah, so probably most of my audience don't know you, but I've got to know you quite well because you've been one of the people who's helped me as a business consultant to actually build up Maniphesto and help me to get it up and running as not just a business owner, but also not just as a self-employed person, but as a business owner, meaning that I can be free to be thinking about the high level things as well. So I'm really appreciative for that. We've had one conversation before, and you've taken a really interesting decision not so long ago in your life. And we thought that was a good opportunity to talk again. And so I won't spoil it for you, but do you want to talk about what you've decided to do in your professional life? And we'll take the conversation from there, Josh.
Sure. Yeah. Glad to be here, Paul. And excited to see your business expand and grow and what it's transforming into and how it's helping men today. Yeah, in terms of me, I've been doing business consulting for over 15 years now. And the real shift has been a high level focus to work primarily with men, actually exclusively with men, and also exclusively with business owners and exclusively with those who want to integrate their Christian faith into their business. So a lot more directed towards those business owners, knowing that that's my passion, that's my goal, that's my dream to focus on them. And just through a lot of prayer and a lot of reflection on the work I've done over the years, this is what I'm most interested in focusing my efforts.
Yeah. So the reason why I thought it would be good for us to talk is because I've noticed that something like 60, 70% of my members on Maniphesto, guys who are on core groups, are business owners or at least looking to start their own business. So kind of entrepreneurial types, finding a niche and also looking to become more independent, wanting to be able to offer something of themselves. And I think it's really fascinating that you've decided to focus exclusively on men who are looking to integrate the Christian faith in there as well. Because one of the things that I've gone for, Maniphesto has been catering to a very wide audience. Probably still today, less than half of my members, it's maybe approaching a half, are non-Christians actually. But yeah, probably there's more than half that are still non-Christians actually. And more and more, it's becoming apparent to them that in their lives, in their relationships, and in their understanding of, what it means to be a man, what it means to be in society, we have to at least contend with the Christian faith. We need to look at it. And people who are inside the Christian faith are finding that actually there's really powerful answers there for pretty much every single situation they're standing in, including running a business. In fact, I would say that running a business for me is more clear, becoming like it's really facing a series of ethical, moral issues and questions and decisions that I have to make. And having a firm foundation that I'm standing on to make those decisions helps me very, very much. And I think this is just becoming so apparent today how, in the kind of collapse of our, secular humanism or whatever that's happening at the moment through liberalism, the progressive type of liberalism that has to question and change everything, and we have to be liberated from every single identity. Now we even have to be liberated from our gender identity, and soon it's of course going to be the human identity we need to be liberated from, so we can just all commit self-assisted suicide and live up in machines, or who knows what it is, right? A lot of people are saying like, no, this is going too far. So we need actually a strong foundation for our faith. So yeah, do you want to try a little bit about what drove you to those kinds of decisions as well? Or what was the story behind it, Josh?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, it starts in the beginning, right? So the creation of man, right? And so this idea of maybe the way the world looks at work as something that's not good or something to avoid or something you're trying to do less and less of. In the beginning, God created man and it told him to go work and keep the garden. And so there was an actual initiative to do that. And then Adam and Eve have some kids and they also go work, right? And from the very beginning, Cain and Abel, one offered an acceptable sacrifice, one didn't. And then it goes to the question is what what is an acceptable sacrifice to God, and what actually is the right way to do work, and what way pleases Him. And so it starts in the very, very beginning of creation. And so I think it's just for men, as opposed to pursuing pleasure, pursuing leisure, or and the Bible says, your God is your belly. Like, you're just choosing to, what do I do to not have to work? Actually, there can be a lot of joy, dignity, and value in work, because it gives you, as a man, your expression of loving others and loving God can be done in your work. It can be an act of service, an act of sacrifice, an act of worship, can all be integrated into that. And as men, you spend so much of your time working. And so to just make your faith be a Sunday morning activity, you're really missing out on the full scope of what God has for you and the impact you can make and the good you could do through your work. And so I think it's essential for men to kind of broaden the picture of what their work means, just like for women, broadening the picture of what childbearing and child rearing means. Broaden that, because that obviously also is sacred and valuable, and you're making eternal beings, right? It's very important work. And men likewise to not discount what they're doing, and instead to add some dignity, add some morality, add some virtue to what they're doing, and to enjoy it, right? Enjoy the hard work they're doing. And that can only be done if it's done for the right reasons, with the right motivations, right heart. Mm-hmm. And it's done with the long view in mind, not just the weekend or this next week or this next month, but with eternity in mind. It's really going to transform the way you work and the impact your work can make.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that what we're increasingly realizing is that there is a transcendent aspect to being and to man and to life in general. And we've kind of operated under this assumption that, work is just about earning money to be able to get the things that we want and eventually to be able to relax and do whatever we want to be able to enjoy or something like that. And as you said, I think that as we've become a society that has so much abundance today, we're actually finding that that's not a true state of affairs. That's actually not the truth, that there's an inherent work value in work in itself. And I also think one of the points that you had there I'd like to bring out here as well is that you differentiate actually between men and women. And I think this is a central thing as well, that, not everybody agrees with this. I live in the country in the world that has the highest female workforce participation rate in the whole world. More women in Denmark are full-time workers. The average age for children in Denmark to get put into daycare is actually now falling below 10 months. Before it was 10 months old that children were put into full-time daycare, but now the European Union just passed laws saying that, basically the man has to use half of the maternity, paternity leave that a couple is given. If he doesn't use half, then you just lose it. And so as a result, many couples are losing part of their parental leave. And so children are even going earlier into daycare because many couples don't, the man doesn't have breasts. If you have like a little 6-month-old baby, it needs to be with his mom. And so that doesn't really work so well. If it was about fathers taking more time off when their kids are a little older, then I could actually see the value of it. But for the way it is now, it's kind of crazy. But it's basically this forcing of trying to aim for equality, but trying to force men and women to be the same, which is not the same. So so my wife stays at home. In the beginning, some people thought that was pretty weird, but people are adjusting to it and getting used to it. And she's with our kids. We live on a homestead, and have sheep and make vegetables and stuff like that, and it's good. But maybe Josh, we were speaking before we started the interview about the value of putting things into practice as well. So it's not just ideas, and that's a part of the thing about working, and it's a very male attribute. So can you talk a little bit about how you've seen that being implemented?
Sure. Yeah. And I just want to commend you on what you're doing, because it's difficult to stand out, to be a light in a dark place, and to actually take what you read and believe it, and then put your trust in it, and then to actually obey it. Right. And that's the hard thing, right? Because in there, I'm sure you've had conflict, you've had challenges is taking courage. And that's really uh, what I'm trying to translate into the business world as well with men, is that if you're going to integrate your faith into your business, it's going to mean you're going to stand out. And that's a good thing. You want to stand out. You want to be different on purpose, and not just be different to be different. And that's your opportunity to be salt in the world. And that's your opportunity also to share the gospel in a way like, why do you do your work this way? It would be faster to do it this way, or you could cut corners and do it that way, or you could, everyone else is doing it this way. Why do you be chosen a different path? And I think it's an opportunity for people to be bold, and also the fruit of what you're doing with your kids. I mean, similarly, we have 4 kids and we homeschool. Easier here in the States, but it doesn't happen quickly, right? Like the first, I don't know, at 6 months, you could have put your child in daycare for free, I guess, in Denmark, but you chose to do something more costly, which is to take care of your own kids. Initially, people are going to say that's not a very smart financial decision. That's not a very smart decision with your time. But the idea of growing fruit, and you know better than I do, having a family farm there, is that it does take time. But that's why I named my company Fourth Soil Venture. Fourth Soil Ventures is because the parable, it's in the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. The idea there in the parable is that the seed goes out, and in the first soil gets snatched up. Basically the fourth one is the one where it actually grows, and it says that it grows because it's a an honest and pure heart. It's a good heart with patience over time, and then it multiplies, a 60-fold, 100-fold, 30-fold. But it doesn't happen instantly, right? There's an aspect of dying that the seed goes through each time it multiplies, but it multiplies 100-fold. And I think that's what I've seen with a lot of my clients in business over the years, is those who are willing to make maybe some of the tougher short-term choices that everyone else is doing this, but they're making a more thoughtful long-term choice. They are being patient. And if you're patient doing good work, you commit your work to the Lord, your plans will be established. And so there's an aspect to that long-term thinking that requires men to be strong, to be steadfast, to be faithful, to be courageous. These are character traits. These are moral traits of manhood that you're going to need if you're going to be an entrepreneur who's actually successful long-term, right? And those are not the world standards, right? They might say those things, they might write those things down, but that's not the way they often operate. And that's, again, it's a part of the transformation I think that you're obviously doing in your personal life and your business. And I'm trying to help men integrate as well, because there's so much that, even looking at myself in the mirror, you just see there's influences that are always on you. There's ideas coming your ways, and you might say, hey, this idea looks good. And based on the world, it looks like it's working pretty good. But you're given that enough time, you're going to see the fruitfulness of it, and it might not be any fruit there. So again, going back, I commend you on what you're doing with your kids. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying. What I'm hearing is like the way that being a business owner forms your person in some way. And it can form you in different ways, because there are many false gods that one can be chasing after. So many people will use these words of, virtue and truth and creating value or something like that. But what they're really doing is they're looking for, how can I be earning more money, or how can I be gaining more influence or power or recognition or something like that. And so with the work that I was doing, we set this goal. I wish I could receive just everything you're saying, but I have to admit, like, I set this goal of like wanting to restore manhood, to build up strong men. And when I started that work, I wasn't a Christian at all. I was an atheist who had been involved in all kinds of weird and wonderful things, and living also, I'd say, a very hedonistic life. And what happened is I started doing this work. I had to be honest about what was actually working or not. And one of the key things that I saw helped men was building long-term, stable, loving, and supporting relationships with women. And I had a whole lot of false ideas about how to do that. And the more that I got to see into men's lives and how they're trying to do it, I just realized, like, this is just not working. It's not working what I was doing. And then one day I sat down and read the Bible, and everything just fell into place. It was why it wasn't working in my own life, why I still had chaos in my personal relationships in my own life, and I couldn't create what I wanted to do, which I was really honestly striving after as well. And so I think that for me, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, it's not for everybody. Absolutely not. But if you want to do it well, you have to struggle and contend with the ultimate questions of life. Actually, you have to understand, like, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a human being? What is this world and this universe? And I think there you're going to have to deal with the questions in Christianity as well, and the ideas, because those are what have formed our society. You know, even if you're not a Christian, if you are a Christian, you have to go deeper, and you have to do it with humility, and you have to constantly look for deeper, further inputs as well, because it's the journey of growing closer to God never ends. And so, you know, it's like we have some ideas. We believe God is truth, God is love, God is beauty, but at the same time, all of those things would limit God. And so actually God is beyond all of our descriptions as well. He's much more than anything we could even put into words, right?
That's great. I love that story where, you know, the pursuit, you had this pursuit of truth. And, you know, that happened to me when I was 19. It was like, I'm going to find out what actually is true. You know, now that I'm out of the house and have other ideas swirling in my head, I'm going to actually pursue what actually is true. And eventually, I think people are honest with themselves and honest with what is true. They're going to they're going to land on God, you know, the way, the truth, the life, and that's ultimately what's going to happen. But again, you mentioned that it takes an aspect of humility to do that, because we like to do it our own way. Going back to the garden, grabbing the forbidden fruit. God says, "Hey, do it my way." Satan says, "Hey, there's a way you can do it actually without, you know, do it this way. That's you're going to get wisdom faster, right?" And that's always going to be an allure of our fallen nature is to search for secret, hidden, beyond wisdom that's not from God. And you know, the repercussions just keep happening again and again in society. But that's cool. Yeah. So again, motivation for anybody out there, test it out. You know, if you're desiring truth, I think you're going to eventually find it. And I think in your case, Paul, you and I found it.
Well, we're definitely on a path that seems to be leading to real value and transformation. And I think for me, what I'm really aiming for and what I say to people, it's like, if you want to be a business owner, it's becoming so apparent how the chase for more profit is just not going to lead to a meaningful, long-term good life for you. I really believe the people that we have to get the most attention, recognition, you know, these richest people out in the world, I actually don't think that they're living the most fulfilled lives whatsoever. And certainly for myself, then I can say that when I'm able to put aside my concerns for, like, is there money enough to, you know, we have a thatched roof and we're gonna have to put on a new thatched roof in a couple of years on our house, and that can be a source of stress for me. But when I'm able to say, well, I'm going to put my attention on doing what I can, and then I'm going to let God take care of the rest. I'm going to create the best value for other people, put their concerns above mine. Am I creating a loving, harmonious relationship with my wife? Are my children getting the clear structure and discipline and the attention that they need to be able to thrive and grow? And am I also really being honest with my customers about what I can help them with and what I can't help them with? When I'm doing those things, then I put my attention on this right thing. I'm not trying to scramble for getting enough money, getting enough resources, getting enough recognition, more subscribers on YouTube, or whatever it is, right? But I'm just slowly allowing God to speak into my life through the language of love, and how I can plug into that source and then impart it to other people around me. I think that's what being a successful business owner is about, you know, and that's what our society is built on, actually, and it's what we're losing now. This is what falling apart. You know, people are being like, oh, the patriarchy, systems of domination and oppression, and everything. We have to burn it all down. And it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, there are some problems. There are people who are misusing this system, but I don't think we built our, you know, incredibly stable society that we have that's lasted for thousands of years, right? Just on that. I think it's been built on love. That's everything that's lasted and stood firm. Has had that at its core, which is Jesus Christ, right? That Christ is the source of love.
It, that's great. And I think that the very beginning of what you said, it was making me thinking about stewardship, right? Is this idea of man, you know, man apart from God, there is all that pressure, all that stress. What about this? What about that? I need to do this. There's the anxiety and the weight, can feel like the weight of the world to do all of these things. But then God says, actually, you're a steward, right? come to me, all who are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. So there's this aspect, especially for business owners and for leaders like that, who think, well, I have to make my own future. I have to make it happen. If it's not me, it's not going to happen. And they're missing out on, there's actually someone much more powerful who does know the future, and does have infinite resources and wisdom, and knows all things that is above you in management, right? And so you do have a lot that you're stewarding, that you're going to be held responsible for. And God has given you talents, time,
Yeah.
talents, treasure, and things that you are supposed to use for His glory and to multiply in this world. But you always have the direct connection through Jesus Christ to pray, and to ask and to seek. And that's what God wants, right? God wants us to come in humility. I think that's also a hard part for entrepreneurs, business owners, is that they have to be humble to receive that. And that's, again, that's a challenge, right? To be at the top, but then also place yourself at the bottom, to be a servant, obviously, of your customers and your employees and your vendors, because you're there to serve, but also to place yourself under God and say, hey, I don't know what tomorrow holds. I do need that, that sale. I do need these extra things, and to petition God for those things. And that's the safest place. That's the place of peace. And like you said, there are so many things you could worry about in the future, but God says, just take care of today. There's enough trouble in today. No need to worry about tomorrow, right? And I think that again is I guess, talk about things that work. If you want to be a peaceful business owner, you want to be a peaceful entrepreneur, because there are a lot of stresses that are going to come your way. There's a way to do it. There's a way to walk that way, and it's not being naive about reality. It's being very realistic about reality. Like, yeah, those pressures are real. Those stresses are real. You really do need to make payroll. You really do have to make these sales. Like those are realities. But go to God, who knows those, and He's going to give you wisdom, and His words to give you wisdom. And if you're patient, then, and as opposed to taking shortcuts, which can backfire. And I could certainly share a lot of stories of clients who've taken shortcuts along the way, and it seems like it's a way towards peace, but it's also it's a way to enslave yourself to those bad choices. And that again is why I love doing the coaching and consulting that I do now, is I get to help business owners, kind of advise them, to encourage them, to challenge them, to exhort them, to keep them on the path they want to be on, and give them some tools and techniques they might not have seen before to help them, right? And I think that's, again, to continue on this riff, is that business owners in general, unlike a lot of employees where they have maybe a lot of their peers doing the same work, or a lot of peers they can relate to, business owners and entrepreneurs are isolated very often. They are on their own. They can't relate to many people. Most people are not doing the things they're doing. They don't have the same kind of risk involved, and stress. And so it's a dangerous spot to be, right? It's a very dangerous spot to be alone, right? Yeah. And so a big part that I guess you and I are both playing is helping them say, hey, you're not alone, and I can pray for you, and I can advise you, and I can maybe reveal to you some blind spots that you can't see, and keep you on that path, as opposed to really just being eaten up by your own fears internally and stresses, the world directing you the wrong way. There's so many things that are going to direct you the wrong way, and just your lack of abilities by yourself.
Yeah, I think in my own case, I've been running my own business since I was 16. Basically, I've been doing it right from the very early days. And if I look back on it, then I think definitely part of my kind of entrepreneurial drive was something like the I can do it myself attitude, which was certainly related as well to a rebellion against my father, my biological father, which turned into a rebellion against my heavenly father, and kind of made me also reject the wisdom of that which had been before, and made me think, no, I can figure it out. I know the best answers. I'm going to do it all my way, kind of thing. And as I've grown older and luckily wiser, I've seen the folly of that, and I've seen how that's been very dysfunctional in my life. And even when I've experienced apparent success it's been at a far higher price than what I've been even willing to put myself and what's been good for me. And so even, in my early career, I worked for a very large I worked for Microsoft for many years, had massive success in my career there at the cost of my soul. And I became like a suit working as a little wheel in a big machine that wasn't taking the world in the right place. And I was just parroting words that were, talking as a lobbyist to politicians about things that I actually didn't know anything about. But everything got taken straight in, and everything got printed in the newspapers, and who knows what that I wanted, right? And so you were talking earlier when you started about stewardship. And I actually just saw Father Josiah Trenham this morning talking about a little video he had called "To Rule One's Own House" or "Ruling Your Own House." And the quote is obviously taken from St. Paul writing to Timothy. And it's the qualifications for a deacon and a bishop of to be a ruler of one's own house. But he actually turns this and uses these advice to being a man who, what does it mean to be able to a man who can, first of all, I think leadership starts in your home, with your family, with your partner, with your children. And as we're able to do that, I always say, I notice, like, as I figure out stuff with my family and my home and how to lead them and guide them and how to love them, I can do the same thing with my clients and my customers and my colleagues and the people that I'm working with. It's far more challenging to do with my wife, but as I'm able to do that, then everything falls into place elsewhere as well. And so I think stewardship, it's an art, and it needs to be driven by love. And it's a path that when we step into, it forces you to grow and learn. And there's going to be difficulties in the way, and we hit our heads. But as you said, that attitude of humility and going back to the source of things, that's what I really believe. And so we need to get over this father rebellion. I can do it my own way if we still have it. We need to look for elders, people who can mentor us, who can guide us. I've found that incredibly valuable in my life. That was really the turning point in my life, is when I found a guy who, today I've been able to go past him, but I was in a place in my life where I was really trying to do everything myself, and it just wasn't working. And then some guy found me, and he had all kinds of ulterior motives. But I decided, okay, well, this is an older guy who's accomplished some of the things that I'm looking to do as well. And he's maybe just a couple of steps ahead of me, but I'm going to try and follow him and put my trust in him. And I'm glad, that was the first step to me learning to then put my trust in the ultimate authority. But I still found that there's so many other men out there. As men, what we want to do is we want to help other people. We want to support them, but we don't want to be helped ourselves. We want to be the ones to figure it all out ourselves, right? And so guys are so bad at investing in themselves to be able to receive support. And so that's something that I think I'm realizing the need to do myself. And coming to you and doing a course with you on building up my business was one of the best things that I did. It created so much more freedom and expansion in my business as well that I was able to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. I think that well, a couple places we could go with this, but in terms of,
and we'll finish it off with this. So put in what you need to put in now, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
No pressure.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, no pressure. But in terms of stewardship, a couple of things there is one that we're going to be held account to what we do. But again, the good news is that we have somebody higher than us, God Himself, that can lead us and guide us. And the three things that I try to, again, with all the work we do, and men like numbers and like to accomplish things, is that I want to make sure that you don't just, again, have this idea of, well, doing good work and doing value, producing value, but there's a way to measure it. And so, at least in my work, when I help small businesses grow, I'm focusing on three lines. The top line. So if you're doing good work in the world, you want to expand that, you want to multiply that, you want to grow that. So in business, that's your top line. That's going to be your sales. How many more people are you reaching to serve? And then the second line that I really focus in on is the bottom line. So how well are you stewarding or managing or operating all the things that you have in your life? And I know you talked about kids, but of course, in terms of business, that's going to be profit, right? So the bottom line is what I'm trying to expand for my clients. And then the third line, I call it the finish line, which is the impact you're going to do with the overflow, with the increase. So if you're going to be doing good work and you're going to do it in a way that's profitable, then you can be generous. You can be generous in good works. And that's really what the overflow of business owners have, is they tend to have more time and more money and more talent and more ability to use that to glorify God. And it's exciting to grow your company for really thinking about that finish line, which is what it's all about. And so those are 3 lines that I work on with my clients. Is I'm going to certainly address their issues to help them grow their company, but if we can grow those top and bottom line and finish line, then they're going to feel like the work they did was worth it.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Josh. Fourthsoiladventures.com. That's your website. I take it, right? Yeah.
Yep.
You're based in where are you based now in the States?
Northern Georgia.
Northern Georgia. Yeah, great. Okay. So yeah, I can just recommend people to check out Josh and his work and get hold of him. It's been very useful for me to have conversations with Josh. In Maniphesto Core, I'll take the opportunity to mention. So Maniphesto Core is our network of online groups where we have kind of mastermind accountability groups, guys who are supporting each other pretty closely. And we're going to be doing in this coming quarter a specific campaign to reach out to guys who are small business owners. So this was a way of kicking that off. We're going to be offering a good discount for our groups. And looking for more ways to be supporting, creating synergy effects by having more of these guys coming in as well. Please, there'll be links in the description for the video after this. So thanks very much, Josh. Greatly appreciated.
Thanks.
And I'm sure we'll have more conversations in the future.
Sounds good.